in the metaverse, they developed a digital twin before they started constructing the plant. So like that led to like a huge improvement in the productivity, in the space efficiency, and in like just like the speed in which the factory could be built. And they saved a lot of money on infrastructure costs.
Having more information that is easier accessible to make better decisions, you would say, if you want to do marketing, but in the end also in your daily business, everyone knows that if I have the right information at the right place, at the right time, always available, then I can also operate much more efficient.
For everyone who has a plant or manufactures or produces things, this can be very relevant and probably also something they should do.
When you can reduce costs with AI or increase efficiency of your production sites, then very quickly you are talking about massive amounts of money.
Speak about the Industrial Metaverse. So I think the Metaverse itself has been talk of town for quite some time, but most people will always think about online retail, online games, socialization, networking online, whatever. But the field in which this has been playing can be a lot wider than most people think, especially when it comes to the industry setting. And this is exactly what we want to shed light on today on Industrial Metaverse, its application, its use, what can really play, I would say, groundbreaking role when it comes to process optimization, efficiency, also sustainability. And of course, we always want to know what role AI plays in here. And for that, we have invited coac's very own senior expert of AI and optimization. So Simon Vollendorf, thank you so much for being with us today to answer all of our questions. Let us kick off without further ado. I would love to know, of course, the very first and basic question, what in your word is the Industrial Metaverse?
Yeah, so the Industrial Metaverse is basically something that is always available for every worker, for which is sitting everywhere around the world. It's not only a digital twin, it is also like it can also contain multiple digital twins and create and provide experiences. So for example, a worker that is on expert that is sitting in Germany and has a production plant in China can now create an experience with a worker that is in China and does not have the knowledge. Now the expert from Germany can go into this virtual world and instruct the worker in China to, for example, replace this one screw or replace that nozzle or valve in the production plant in China without having the need to travel from Germany to China and replace it himself, because he now has this immersive experience where you can go into the Industrial Metaverse, go into the not physically, but virtually immersive, go into the plant and instruct someone to repair things or like just have the experience, the real life experience in a virtual world.
Okay, got it. And we know that Siemens has been doing quite crucial role. One can maybe say has been a pioneer in that field. Can you elaborate a little bit on what they've been doing that's been so special?
Yeah, I think there are two big examples from Siemens that are very worth talking about. One is the digital native factory in Nanjing in China, which was groundbreaking because they have developed a complete digital twin so they developed in the metaverse, they developed a digital twin before they started constructing the plant. So that led to a huge improvement in the productivity, in the space efficiency, and in just the speed in which the factory could be built. And they saved a lot of money on infrastructure costs. And then because this is something that living in Berlin also like has an impact on me, is like they also have a digital twin of Siemens in Berlin, where they try to, with Bentley systems, I think, where they created a complete digital twin of a neighborhood, the neighborhood Siemensstadt, and there they are trying to like with a digital twin, create a more sustainable way of having industry, living, research, working next to each other.
Super interesting. And then maybe a third case Martin can add. There's been a press release March 24 in which Siemens announced a major partnership with NVIDIA. What is that all about? What do we need to know about this?
Yeah, I think the partnership with NVIDIA is really showing that this is a really relevant and important topic. Yeah, so when we think about what Simon said, then the metaverse is really a lot about information and data, transparency, I would say, that is getting realized before really something is built in manufacturing. That's the exciting thing here. And I think what NVIDIA really can offer is, on the one side, this graphical UI power to provide really the 3D rendering, the visualization, that really an engineer from Germany can help the people in China without traveling and much faster. But on the other side, NVIDIA is also, and I think that's also very interesting for our podcast here, of course, providing all the computing power for artificial intelligence and complex machine learnings, fine-tuning of models and things like this. And I think that's a very, very smart move, right? Because it goes basically, especially when we're thinking and talking about the industrial metaverse, it really goes hand in hand, right? On the one side, the 3D and rendering stuff, and on the other side, the AI stuff. But in the end, it's really all about data, transparency, having more information that is easier accessible to make better decisions. Yeah, you would say, if you want to do marketing, but in the end, also in your daily business. Yeah, everyone knows that if I have the right information at the right place, at the right time, always available, and I can also operate much more efficient, and also realize, and that's what process industry, for example, is all about, reduce downtimes of the site, of the production site, reduce maintenance costs, and also have a compliant and secure operation in the end up and running. And I think the partnership with NVIDIA is very important and relevant, and on the other side, we also see a lot of traction currently at SAP that are looking into this topic, how the manufacturing of the future looks like, right? So there's a lot happening currently, and all around this big players as well.
And it's interesting because there was even a report that recently came out by World Economic Forum that has forecasted the global market of the industrial metaverse by 2030 to be 1 billion. $100 billion US dollars. Sorry, that's not 1 million, $100 billion US dollar.
Yeah.
I'd love to know, since you guys are also working with some major players in that field, for what type of company do you think this would be useful and relevant in the future? Who are we looking at? Would really be having a massive use case in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, everything, Martin already said it, like everything in the process industry, brownfield, greenfield, for everyone who has a plant or manufactures or produces things, this can be very relevant and probably also something they should do because, like, as you said, like there will be a lot of traction with it which was reported. I think in 2021, Gartner also said by 2026, at least a quarter of the population will interact with the metaverse for 1 hour per day, which is only 2 years from now, which is crazy. But also the report was done while we were in the middle of a pandemic. So like that also accelerated, right? Like also the German industry, like accelerated themselves to be more hybrid and have more hybrid events and on like to take place more digitally. But in general, I think it's interesting for every industry, also for like a bank or an insurance, but mainly I think for producing and manufacturing companies, like doesn't matter, like hydrogen as well. And everybody who has machines and a plant or something that is that users interact with
How can, do you want to elaborate?
Yeah, perhaps I can add something to it. I mean, this $100 billion, right, in the end. And that's really what also we experienced when we entered that industry, right? That process industry, that especially in that industry, we're talking about really a lot of money, that is just used to operate sites and production plants. And on the other side, you have also huge investments in new construction. You have huge investments in engineering. That's why it's so great for a society to have basically a process industry around, because there's just a lot of budget basically invested and floating around, you could say. And I think that to add this here, right, AI is so relevant in industry, or when we talk about engineering, because when you can reduce costs with AI or increase efficiency of your production sites, then very quickly you are talking about massive amounts of money, basically. And the potential, especially for Germany here, is so big because we have so much brownfield production sites in Germany, of course, also in Europe. And I think that's why really AI and digital twins plays such a big role, because it has really the power to bring us back to the most efficient production sites in the world, if you think through it in the end. And I hope also in the podcast we can deep dive into that, because if you think about, like Simon said, the engineering part, you can much quicker engineer new production plants. You can reduce maintenance costs. And this is, of course, super interesting.
Can you say a few words on the sustainability impact that it could possibly have? Not only the financial impact in terms of reducing costs, but also sustainability gains?
Yeah, we can, I think, both.
Let's start. I mean, I can start with an example. It's again Siemens, but it's not very new, but they also have a digital twin in Egypt where they have designed a digital twin, which they haven't built yet, which is like 70,000 kilometers of railway networks, and they are planning to build that. And in the long term, this would reduce 70% of carbon monoxide, like in Egypt.
That's crazy. That's a lot.
Yeah, what I can add is also when we think about circularity, right? So we're talking a lot about this sustainable by design topics in Europe. And I think that's also a massive benefit, right? That you can really engineer products digitally simulated and also reduce the amount of equipment that you need, that you can think about reusing equipment. Of course, recycle anyways, right? That's something we do already today in that area, right? If you think about pipelines or vessels or flanges, then you typically recycle that, or in the future it would be possible to reuse it when we also think about digital passports and so on, refurbish stuff. So all these are strategies, how we call them, basically.
Let's look back to the companies that we spoke about, the potential companies. I know the field is quite broad, but what does it take? You can take one of the examples of companies you use without having to mention them. What does it need to enable a project like that?
Yeah.
How, in very practical terms, are you guys looking at it from the start?
I mean, there are multiple dimensions that we have to look at, right? Like the first thing would definitely be that you also have to have the hardware and infrastructure to operate such a product. You always need to have good internet connection, and you need to provide there's also the hardware part, right? They need a HoloLens or just a wearable which they can access the environment. But from what we are looking at is first basically the groundwork. We are working with people with plants that are relatively old. So we don't necessarily have all the data always already digitalized. So where we are supporting is we build models and we implement projects where we support them to gather that data and to enhance the data quality of existing data, or data that is not yet digitally available. So reading documents that are maybe 50 years old and have been in a cupboard for 20 years, and now they're taking pictures or scanning them on a large scale, and we extract information from them and have an assistant system where they can just like go through them quickly, have like a massive increase in efficiency in like looking at these documents, put the data into the database, and then accessing and again like working with the data that they now have, which they never had before.
Wow. So it's actually two birds with a stone almost. Like, I don't know if you can call it leapfrogging, but then on the way to an industrial metaverse, you're doing so much more in terms of really the very basics of digitization, because otherwise it wouldn't work, hey?
Yeah, of course, yeah. That's also a bit where we're coming back to what we started with, right? In the end, it's about data availability and transparency. And we look mostly into brownfield sites. So that means existing production sites where a lot of companies today really work a lot still with paper. Not all information is inside an SAP system because it's just a lot of work. And the operation, I think, always is also very busy from turnarounds, maintenance stuff, handovers from project into maintenance, basically. And what we really look into is how can we use AI to assist, right? And to basically provide these engineers more time so that they really can also run and do a digital transformation in the end. Yeah. And it's what Simon said. Yeah. In the end, it's about collecting data from documents, probably, or collecting data also from various IT systems, where we use the machine learning to create a single point of truth, where really we provide good master data. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because one thing is if you build a new site or a new plant in China, then of course you can plan it like this, right? You can also calculate the budget for it and you set it up like you would do it today. But the big question, of course, is what do we do with all the sites that basically have been built in Germany or Europe after the Second World War, right? Mm-hmm. And until today, let's say until 10 years ago. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you will figure out that a lot of engineers and operations people basically, work a lot with documents. They work a lot in Excel, but that is, of course, not sufficient, right? With that, you cannot establish a digital twin.
Sure.
And that's really where we are looking into, because we have the strength of our AI models to understand data, to interpret data, to prepare it to be used in SAP as an SAP partner, right? And I think this is also what Simon said. In the end, it's relevant for all industrial players. Yeah, if they are upstream or downstream, if they are more consumer facing or in between the value chain, it's definitely relevant for everyone. And these cost savings are immense. Yeah, so we are talking really about return on investments within definitely a year, typically, right? So it's like, a very valuable decision, basically, to use that technology, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's really groundbreaking.
Let's, as a last question, maybe let's touch a little bit on the human resource side of things. So on the one hand, I'd love to know kind of who's involved from company side, right? Mm-hmm. Who are the people and how many typically, I don't know, are working with you guys to really be able to absorb and implement the technical changes that you guys are pushing forward. And at the second time, how does upskilling really take place? Because we cannot, or I guess you guys cannot assume that there's already in-depth knowledge about, such a new space like the Industrial Metaverse. So how does that take place?
Yeah, I mean, in the end, the good thing is we're talking always to engineers, right? So they like to work with data. They also work today already with data a lot. Yeah, so they run their reports and analysis and so on already today. So I would say it's not also digital twin is easy to use, right? So it's not that you need a lot of training for them. Mm-hmm. It's more that you need to do some change management in that context, that you show them the new software, the new tooling, and that they get used to it. And I think from my perspective, I mean, you can add something to it. But we're working with basically everyone, from really the operators that doing the daily business, that know really, that can hear the site breathing, let's say, and really know each and every step, because this is needed, right? In the end, you want to make it digital, but you need to understand how the plant is working today. Yeah. But then we're, of course, working a lot with the different division responsibles for maintenance, for engineering, for the construction, for turnarounds, purchasing, and so on, up to the site management, basically, that also want to digitize, that need to save costs, right? Because this is what today is a lot about: saving costs, being more efficient, being competitive in the end, and being able to show that also a site in Germany can be competitive to a site in the US or China. That's what German site operators need to do today. So it's really, I would say, all the different career steps are involved, right?
Yeah, I can only agree to what you just said. Like, I think one good quote from one of our customers recently was that no one wants to just copy and type things from a document into a different system all day. They're all like the people we usually work with are all engineers, PhDs, chemists. So nobody just wants to like sit there all day and have to copy these documents into another system. They all want to also do other stuff, but it's necessary for them to do that at the moment, and that's where we want to come in and where we want to support.
It's interesting. Thank you, guys. Okay, it was a super insightful talk. That's it for today's episode. Please stay tuned. There's the next episode coming already next week. And then we hope we shared some insightful knowledge with you and you took something away from this session. Thank you.